Traditionally, that's used on the smaller baits, like our rum cake candy, sandsalve candy, that are short. Guys using that for 30 to 50 pound class tackle. Um, Actually, that is a slight tuna. That's a tuna bend hook, blade point. Traditionally, we would prefer to have that an open gap hook, but we'll make it both ways for our customers.
Absolutely, 100%.
Um,
The turn in right there again, southern tuna style turned in hook.
right. And we use that only on the smaller ones. Like stuff. I said, we'll make them both ways. So you could see that the distance between, and traditionally, Bobby, what we like to do is we like to, since the Wahoo's typical pattern of attack is to chop the tail off its prey and come back around and finish it off, we like to bring the hook inside the skirt just a little bit versus outside. So the short throw there, and then we use a different kind of cable. We use 600-pound stainless steel cable, again 7x7 stainless. We use a clear shrink right here because Wahoo hook sets, I mean, you go through them pretty fast. So you could see that connection point right there. Pretty simplistic.
In the past, you and I we've rigged tons of marlin lures together. We've done black heat shrink. We've done red heat shrink.
Right.
This is generally, you only use your clear on the Wahoo because you're concerned about what's underneath this.
Yeah, I'm really concerned what's on there. I mean, especially with these Wahoo. I mean, they tear through stuff so fast.
Right, and this still has adhesive in it.
There's a light adhesive in there. It's not as heavy as the black and the red shrink, but there is a light adhesive there.
Okay, so in recapping this rig, 600-pound cable, stainless.
Right.
600 pound. Goes into a copper crimp.
Copper crimp.
Copper crimp. That's single or double wall.
Double wall.
Okay, double wall. Our heat shrink is clear on the Wahoo hook set.
Clear 3/8.
3/8. It's got glue or no glue inside.
It's got a light glue.
Okay, and then on your this particular hook is a 8.0, 7.0. What is that?
That's actually a 9.0. We prefer something a little bit larger.
Okay.
When it comes to Wahoo.
Right. The Paha hook is interesting. This is a Paha hook.
No, that is actually a handmade Japanese hook. But, when a Wahoo comes in so hard, so fast, I'm not really worried about penetration. That fish is going to get hung up.
Gotcha.
So this is just a standard style tuna bend hook. It is still Japanese handmade, but it's a little different.
You hear me saying Paha hook. These guys have their own hook, actually in marlin fishing, called the Paha hook. It is different because it's got no eye. It's got the small eye
That's
connection.
Right.
And now that I'm looking at that, but that's one of the ones we use for marlin fishing, the
Sure.
Paha. Paha is still a southern tuna style.
Still is, but a little different. Different hook.
Very interesting. Now you're talking. You alluded to not being afraid. Obviously, a Wahoo's going to climb all over this.
Oh yeah.
So do you sharpen these?
Yes, these we sharpen. The Paha hooks are just typically just touched on the ends because it's a conical point versus the blade point.
Okay, so blade point, when he's talking about the tip of this hook, Wahoo fishing, you're going, how fast are you going, 14 to 16 knots?
No, actually, we go about 13 knots.
13 knots. So even on the slower side at 13 knots, when something hits that, you're able to drive the hook without issue. Right, so it's not a problem. That's a single hook set, smaller lures. Give me if when you say smaller lures, Black Rock, what are we talking about?
Well, like our little rum cake candy. It's about a 9-inch small bait.
That the only one?
For that particular hook.
All right, so you're picky. All right, so we're going rum cake candy. There's your hook set for that.
Now we get up to the San Sal candy and the Crooked Island candy. Now it's a different game. It's a longer lure, a little bit bigger. And so what we do here is we, again, come back with our twisted cable for a little bit more protection. We've got the 600 and then again the clear shrink. We also run that out past the crimp a little bit. So when you pull that into our hook lock, all Black Bart lures have a hook lock on.
Right.
So when we pull that in, that locks in. We turn the hook in an up position with the name of the lure on the bottom, and away we go. The thing about using 600-pound cable, Bobby, is is that we don't need the heavy cable. These lures are going to be, Wahoo baits are going to be straight tracking baits. You know, that hook is not flopping all over the place. It's trailing right behind.
So talk about this hook again. This is obviously an open bite hook.
Open bite hook, absolutely. Again, the handmade Japanese, it's got the larger eye on it. But again, you know, we're looking at penetration here, and when a Wahoo hits that bait going 30 miles an hour, you're not worried about penetration.
The double twisted cable inside this, you're more interested in, you're beefing it up because you're afraid of it getting cut, or you want the actual hook set to be more rigid in the water?
Well, since this is a straight pulling lure,
correct,
rigidity of the hook set itself is not going to make a difference.
Because it's going to pull
It's
straight.
just going to track straight.
Okay.
So we're not getting any beating of the hook. I really like this for, again, the strength, okay, and protection.
Okay.
And when we make all our Wahoo rigs, you'll notice this cable's much longer. So we're actually running cable through the lure about 1.5 feet outside the front, because when those Wahoo come in hard and fast, what'll happen is, I mean, their eyes are on their side of the head, not on the front.
Correct.
They miss all the time. So if the lure head's here and they hit here and that's mono, just slice right through it.
Lures for this hook set are again?
Well, we like the bigger lures, Crooked Island Candy for this.
Crooked Island Candy.
Yep.
Recapping this rig, 600-pound cable, stainless.
Right.
Copper crimp here, copper crimp here.
Correct.
Twisted inside, twisted 600 cable.
Correct.
This particular, you actually have the cable sticks out past the end of this crimp to actually give you a stationary position to pull into your stopper.
Correct, into our hook lock, yeah.
Okay, this heat shrink is clear so you can see inside. It's got some glue in it.
It does.
The reason for the heat shrink being clear is so you can observe your rig up underneath what you see. This particular hook is a, size-wise?
That would be 11-0.
This is an 11.
Correct.
Do you ever fish a 12?
You know, on real big stuff.
Yeah. What's a real big, like something, like what's something you can fish on a 12?
Well, Bobby, I don't want to tell all our secrets.
All right, so nonetheless, open bite, heat shrink,
right,
crimps, cable, which leads us to our next hook set. Maybe you'll tell us something about that one.
Yeah, you can pry it out of me.
All right.
So, this is a double for the guys that like doubles. I'm still a single hook guy.
Even with Wahoo, you're single.
Yeah, I'm still single hook guy. I mean, you know, you could get away with a double with that because you got a straight tracking bait. But again, you know, we twist it up. There's 2 copper crimps here. You'll notice both hooks are the open gap type. Again, for the same reason, the head is close here. About 1.5 feet of cable coming through the head, extending out past it for protection. You know, we joked about the 12s. Yeah, we run the 12s. We have a lure that is just for the big girls. It's Brazil Projet, and it was an experiment in mass. You know, will the bigger baits attract the bigger fish? And we certainly found that to be true most of the time. So that's that hook set. That's a double. Pretty simplistic, again, with the clear shrink here. You know, the thing about Wahoo fishing is they tear stuff up. And that's why we use clear. It's not going to last as long as, say, a marlin hook set would.
Very, very cool. It's I'm a fan of the single as well.
Sure.
I like the open bite hook. No question, easier to hook them generally. Do you ever notice with this hook set a consistency to how the fish is hooked, where it's hooked?
Well, yes. You know, and that's part of our whole system of lures. You know, we have a hook lock in the back. You pin the hook in an up position.
And you're going to see that stuff in a second.
Yeah, you pin the hook in an up position, so when the fish comes in to bite that, it increases the odds of hooking the fish in the upper part of the jaw where all the structure is. You know, you hook it down here, it's easier to pull the hook. So that's the whole premise behind this. But most of the time with a double hook rig, I see the fish hooked on the trailing hook.
Last thing I'll say about that, I agree with you 100%. The consistency of this hook set, generally when we were fishing all the tournaments with this basic style hook set, I would say 7 out of 10 fish were hooked right up through the top. Might have been here or here, but they were always hooked up.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.